welcome everybody. I guess we didn't know, with it being the last session of the last day, whether the theatre would be full or empty, so somewhere in between, so that's good news. So, welcome to this session on 5 keys to unlock competitiveness within the food and beverage industry. In this session, in this panel session, we want to investigate 5 trends and the challenges they pose to food and beverage manufacturers. The first trend is changing consumer behavior and the impact that it has on the SKUs, the explosion of SKUs that consumers putting pressure on the manufacturers. So people wanting more healthy options, different types of packaging, even with EVEVA, people are having personalized products. That puts pressure on manufacturing, pressure on agility on manufacturing lines, and with the constraints on CapEx and OpEx caused by low margins, 5% margins within food and beverage industry, people need to look at the total cost of ownership of their assets, not just look at the upfront costs. When you add into that, any food and beverage manufacturer worth his salt should have a very, very strong mandate on sustainability. That doesn't just mean having an energy saving and a water stewardship mandate, but looking at the sustainability of the whole value chain, the whole supply chain from farm to the retailer. But a key point in that as well is climate change having an effect on the availability and the cost of raw materials. So all these things need to be taken into consideration, and are huge pressures for food and beverage manufacturers. A further pressure is increasing regulations. We've seen a lot of food safety incidents, such as the horse meat scandal and tainted milk scandal in China. This drives more and more regulation, more stringent regulation for food and beverage manufacturers to adhere to. The last trend that we'd like to look at is workforce dynamic. Food and beverage plants are often run by people nearing retirement. The knowledge of how to control the process is in their head, and we need to understand how we not only codify that knowledge so that we can produce in the future, but also use tools and digital tools to attract younger generations into food and beverage manufacturing. So I guess the answer is can all this be done with digital transformation? We'll investigate that. So I'm David Cooper. I head up the segment for consumer packaged goods in EMEA, and I have some extremely distinguished guests up here on stage with me this afternoon. So I will allow them to introduce themselves, starting with Manel.
Yeah, nice to meet you. Manel Dominguez. I'm that long, so Global Operations Development Manager in Danone. And why I'm here, because I'm part of the digital alignment team inside of Group Danone. So it's a cross-WIBU team, dairy, specialized nutrition, and waters.
My name is Rikard Franz. I work for Tetra Pak, and I am manager for a team that develops our automation platform.
And Keith Chambers, I work for AVEVA, one of the very close partners with Schneider Electric. I'm responsible for the operations management software, aka MES, within AVEVA. But I also set and drive our CPG food and bev strategy. So thank you, David.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for joining me. So Manel, if I could come to you first, I guess, first of all, do you agree with the challenges that we presented? And if so, what's the number one priority that you're focusing on in your digital transformation?
Yeah, definitely, I agree. And we can start, one of the main that maybe this is the week, so is the climate and oriented to raw materials scarcity and the importance of the water and energy. So we are putting a lot of pressure, or they are putting a lot of pressure in end users. So we are accepting that. We are getting the challenge, and we are putting a lot of effort. Our CEO was in the UN presenting, so it's the commitment. The commitment is there. For us, the consumer trust and the regulation for sure is a competitive advantage for us. So we can work on serialization, we can work on traceability with our tools and differentiate from others. Our workforce for sure is the turnover is quite high, in different regions. It's not only Spain, so there are like Asia, Europe, North America, Latin America, and it's quite high, the turnover. And we need tools to bring this knowledge that you said before to the new generations and to the newcomers entering in the plants, safety, quality, all these KPIs. We have a dilemma with the CAPEX and OPEX. So, and even in the CAPEX, we have two questions to answer. The traditional way was to buy lines for certain product, and you buy a line for 20, 30 years, even more. Now we have the dilemma of this is right. We need to change. We need to go for the IKEA project, 5 years, 7 years, 6, 3, 2. So we have this kind of dilemma. But for sure, we want to expand life for our existing equipment. And I think the last one, we know that the consumers today want strawberry with chia seeds plus plant-based product. And tomorrow they don't like chia seeds, they like almond, or they like oat. And we know that. So we need to be prepared for agility and flexibility in the plants. So this is a fact, and we are adapting to this reality today.
Okay, great. And do you have an example of a implementation of a digital transformation project that you've done that was successful, and the benefits that it gave you?
Yeah, I can explain one. We are rolling out already the solution, so there was a proof of concept before. We need to improve efficiency, as I told you. We need flexible and agile factories, and the lines are stopping more than before because they need to clean, they need to do the changeovers, etc. So we need to improve a lot the efficiency. So vertical startups after the maintenance, after CIP, after a changeover. So we detect that some of our population in the operators, there was a lack of two things. One of training or improving the standard procedures that we have already in place, sometimes in Excel, sometimes in paper. And the other was the communication or the intra-communication inside of the factory. So we ran the pilot. We built something on the clouds, and there was two meanings for the people, for the operator to be engaged in this project. So that empowers them. Is like they were more autonomous than before. So we brought SOPs digital. So we digitize all the SOPs, and they can have access now to know what is a changeover of a plastic reel in a filler, and also it's helping for the newcomers. So when we are changing the guy from temporary or newcomer, we tested that from before that it was like 1 hour for changing a plastic reel in a filler. It was half using a digital platform. So that was the training part. And the communication, we detected that between operators, we call it in white and in blue. Maybe you know about the operators in the lines and maintenance guys. Sometimes they are not well communicated, so it could be another issue. But sometimes it was because the guy was another place, etc. So we put in place something that it was an assignment. So we put a system that it was assigned to an operator that the machine was with a breakdown, and then it was an immediate escalating, and they get an alert on their mobile phone or iPad, it depends. And also it was reported the zone of the filler that it was on under the breakdown. So then the operator, the maintenance operator, he was carrying something already prepared for the line intervention.
Okay, so good workforce engagement. Are there any other domains that you'd like to investigate for digital transformation technology, and for what reason would you pick those domains?
Our desire for the future and to work with data is that everybody in the plant, everybody is meaning everybody, so people working in the warehouse, people working in the lines, working for maintenance and managers, it will be native in digital. Today we are not working in native way. We are like in heritage of Microsoft tools, etc. And we are like a frontier in front of us. I'm not talking about Minority Report, about moving windows, etc., but to work in a collaborative way digitally. So meaning like this full supply chain connected, all the plant connected, maintenance connected with the line, with the operators, talking together. This is our desire to be implemented in the future.
Okay, great. So, Rikard, coming to yourself as the OEM, as the machine provider, we've heard from Manel that they're looking for different things now, different ways of working with OEMs. Listening to what Manel says about agility and competitiveness, how are you able to bring transformation and technology to help?
First of all, I would look into the actual site. And what I mean with that is that not many sites today, not many new sites are built today, not many greenfield sites, but most sites that we have in our world are brownfield sites.
Just a point, from an end user point, I think that it was 10 years. It's like 10 years that we haven't built a greenfield, so
yeah.
I agree.
So as an OEM, my first thinking is that I would help Manuel with the upgrade path to make sure that he can maintain his equipment and use his equipment not only today but in a long-term way. Secondly, I would make sure that I have a remote connection or a remote service connection to his site. And with that, I can include so many things. We have seen today augmented reality, HoloLens, but there is much more than that into this package with remote services. There are things like support. There are possibilities for Manuel's operators to actually work from home, from remote, maintenance guys to work and do maintenance and support, not only locally, but on their way to a site, as an example. And as a third example, I would like to introduce what we call predictive maintenance. Today, it's possible to collect data because of the new digital world we are going into. We can collect data from different equipment, and we can gather that data into the cloud. And based on that, we can do analysis, algorithm, to make sure that we know when it's time to do maintenance. Early on today, we had a plenary session, and it was said that we cannot predict the future. But I would like to say that we can predict the future. And I think that's really interesting with this predictive maintenance and what that can do for a site.
Okay, great. And do you have an example of a digital transformation implementation that you've done on an end user site and the resulting benefits for that customer?
Yeah, I would like to bring an example. We have customers that has milk separators, and that customer is in South America. And what we do is we collect the data, the vibration data from this separator. We compare the data to thousands of other separators that we have installed worldwide. And by doing that and putting analysis on top of that, we can actually foresee when separator will break down. So in this specific case, we saw a pattern in the separator, in the vibration pattern, and we could see that the bearing was going to break down, which means that we could call the customer 3 weeks in advance and say, in 3 weeks' time, your separator is going to break down. And they were first laughing at us, saying that that's not possible. But we were quite convincing, saying that it will break down in 3 weeks' time, plus minus some time, of course, but take or give. But what we did, we planned the maintenance. So 2 weeks later, we planned the maintenance, and we did a shutdown, we replaced the bearing, and the bearing was broken. So whether it was 3 weeks or 4 weeks, we cannot say, but the customer saved a lot of money because of this and production time. And based on what we have seen so far, the OEE for a line can increase with up to 4% using predictive maintenance.
Yeah. And did they give you a cost for breakdown for being out of service?
They actually, 70k euros for this specific event.
Okay, very good. And you've listened to Manel. Manel's heading up the digital transformation within Danone, and you've heard about what his challenges are. Do you have any specific advice of how you could help Manel in his role?
I do.
Great.
As a matter of fact. Actually, today we have heard so many of us talking about the future. We talk about digitalization, we talk about what will come very soon. But I would like, Manuel, to go back to the fact that all your sites are brownfield. All your sites have existing equipment. And digitalization is not really about planning the future. It's about maintaining the history. And what I mean with that is that we have the legacy, we have all the equipment installed, and they are not Industry 4.0 compliant. They are not digitalized, and they will not be digitalized, not in the next coming years. Which means that if you should benefit from all this digital journey and the digital transformation you want to do, the first thing I would like to make sure is that we can help you to put all this equipment into a synchronized way to provide the data, because if you don't have the data in a synchronized and efficient way, there is no point of talking about digitalization, services, and all the other things. So the first thing I would do is to make sure that on your existing equipment, digitalize that, make sure that the data is in a structured way so that we can make use out of that.
Yeah, just don't collect data for the sake of collecting data. Absolutely. Which brings us nicely on to Keith, actually, as the technology partner in this trio. Listening to Rikard and Manel, how can you help in this digital transformation?
Yes, certainly. So picking up from what you just said, digital transformation runs off of data. So that's really the first use of technology is collection and visualization of data, whether that be from an edge device, an IoT sensor coming up into the plant, whether it's an HMI SCADA layer or a PLC, coming up through the different levels. It's essential that data is collected, correlated, but then put in context. And that's really the concept that we have called the digital twin. That's what a digital twin is. It's a set of data in context that represents the digital view of what's happening and has happened for an asset or a plant. So that's kind of the first kind of challenge, I guess. The second, I would say, is in the transformation of work that has to occur in the plant. So we talked a little bit, someone used the term digital natives. We're not digital natives. So today, most people in the plant are what you might think of as digital migrants. They're kind of migrating into it. In the future, they'll be digital natives. So it's important that we provide technology to help bridge that gap. And so when I talk about kind of transformation work, it's really in three areas. It's using for sure mobility, so bringing data, visibility, and action to where the work is being done. But then also it's technologies like artificial intelligence that can support decision making and actions on the plant floor in real time. And then also technologies to help accelerate the mastery of skills. As a new generation workforce comes in, it's important to accelerate that knowledge space that they have, because frankly they may not be there for 20 years to gain that experience. So that's technology like extended reality, virtual reality, immersive environments, augmented reality, those kinds of technologies. So that's how we bring technology, I guess, to help solve some of those challenges.
Okay. And amongst all of these technologies within a food and beverage manufacturing environment, which domains do you think you can help the most or first?
Yeah, so whenever we look at kind of this concept of the digital twin, people use that term for a lot of things, and it really applies to three main domains. So kind of operationally, when people talk about digital twins, it's around HMI SCADA, data collection, MES, all of that kind of operational technology stack that helps the plant run. Sorry. That's better, thank you. The operational technology that helps the plant run. The second aspect of the digital twin is really around the maintenance side. So this is kind of driving, as Rikard said, the asset reliability and utilization. So whether it be for preventive maintenance, whether it be for condition-based maintenance, predictive maintenance, or prescriptive maintenance, where the systems are telling you not just that there's a breakdown happening, but what you should be doing about it. So that's kind of the second domain or aspect where we can help. I think the third one that's actually very underserved is in engineering technology. Traditionally, CPG food bev plants don't invest a lot in their engineering technology, drawings, data sheets, those kinds of things. So there's a great need to kind of capture and manage that engineering data set and bring it in context to the operation. So if there's a breakdown or a failure operationally, the maintenance and the operations people can see the wiring diagrams. They can find the P&IDs, the instrument tags, the data sets, the data sheets very quickly and again in context to help them resolve the issue and move the plant forward.
Okay. So we've spoken a lot about collecting data and technology being available, but do you have any recommendations for both from an end user perspective and from an OEM perspective how to successfully implement digital transformation technology?
Yeah, sure. I'll give three. So I think the first and maybe the most important is change management. So as I said, we're transitioning our workforce and our plants, our technologies, our operating models to something new in the future. And it's essential that we bring people along with us. So digital transformation really is all about the people, not so much the technology behind it. So first recommendation, absolutely have to manage and help people through the changes that these programs will bring. Secondly is digital transformation needs to be tied to some specific business outcomes. It needs to be a return on the investment, some kind of either cost reduction or business outcome that the business is trying to drive, a top-down benefit that comes from it, or else these programs don't really go anywhere. They may be interesting technologically, but they're not going to really grow and get adopted. And that kind of brings me to my third point, which is kind of what I call the three S's. So firstly, most importantly, is to start, and that's the idea of start small, start fast, be quick, proof of concept, verify technology is going to work for you, it's going to bring some benefits. But once you've started and you've gotten to that point, then you need to scale. So you need to be able to take those solutions that have been successful and either fail fast, in other words, put them to the side, or scale them out across the business to really scale the benefits. And then the third S of that start, scale is sustain. So once you've implemented and driven those changes into your organization, into your operations, you need to sustain them, make sure that they persist, are adopted, and continue to bring value through the years.
Start, scale, sustain.
Yep, those are three.
So what I've been thinking as well is we've talked a lot about collecting data, more and more data, and we know that customers have cybersecurity programs in place, hopefully. Cybersecurity is fresh on everybody's lips, but as we collect more and more data in the future, how can we ensure the integrity of people's data?
Sure. So I'll take that. So there's kind of this myth around of secure software, that software can be secure, and it's a myth in and of itself. So as a technology provider, we absolutely apply maximum diligence to cybersecurity. We have what we call our security design lifecycle. We have incident response teams. We do third-party penetration testing. We have metrics. We have KPIs on all of our R&D development projects around it. But none of that effort around securing the software really matters until it gets deployed and how it gets deployed. So the strongest, most secure software in the world won't be secure if the user writes a password on a yellow Post-it note and sticks it on the monitor. So cybersecurity is kind of a combination of the vendor and their ability to really build secure software, but also on how it gets used and applied within the operation. Otherwise, it's no more secure than any other piece of software.
Okay. And integrating OEM solutions into the end user environment seems to be key for success in digital transformation. I wonder if we're doing collaboratively doing enough today, and is there more that can be done? Rikard or Manel, actually?
Yeah, I can answer, and then for sure that we can do more. I think that we have been a little bit hiding some data sometimes from the a supplier like Tetra Pak or any other for fillers, trying to hide some things. And what we should do is to pop up everything. And at the end, running an algorithm with the wrong data, it will bring you to a wrong decision. So, and taking as a collaborative world, opening the window for the OEMs to have a view on our machines, for example, it will take our time to do so to the OEM. So we will save time to do another things than having an algorithm running in the data. So for sure that we need this kind of remote monitoring and remote assistance more than today.
Okay. As an OEM, I see the real value when things happen is when we can provide a value for that data. So we can ask any customer in the world to provide us data, and they would typically say no to that until there is a value. If we can say, give us the data, and we can, based on that, we can together provide a value. You can learn something, you can improve the OEE or something. That makes sense. Then there will be a change. But before that, just providing data is just dangerous and stupid.
Yeah. And a lot of the examples we've spoken about today about digital transformation and collecting data are about data within the plant, but a food and beverage value chain goes from the farm to eventually to the consumer or the retailer. How important do you think digital transformation is across the whole value chain?
Okay, I will answer.
Sorry.
Yeah, let's say that we are under a program for end-to-end digital from starting from the cow. So we have some IoT devices plugged into the legs of the cow, so we can monitor distance, where they are, etc. So we started there. Not in every part of the world, but some of the farms. We started there. Then we have the full sourcing until the plant. Then internal plant traceability, and then we have logistics that sometimes, or most of the times, it's not in our scope. So we have like a third party working for us, XPOs or Salvesen or others. And we need this. So we need again the collaborative platform to have all the data using the technology. It can be blockchain, it can be another tool, but at the end we need this end-to-end data to have the full picture of traceability in case of a recall, in case of an emergency.
Yeah.
Can I add one thing there?
Sure.
I think the fact that the data is inside the factory is one thing, but our customers today, all of you today, are the consumers that want to know what is inside the package. So if you buy a product, you would like to know what's in it. You would like to know that it's safe to eat or drink the product. And the only way for you to do that is to get the information, the data from the site. So what you do, you typically scan the QR code on the package or the data matrix code on the package. And based on that, you directly get information about nutritional facts. You can see the cow that delivered the milk in the package, or at least theoretically you can see the cow. But you can get a lot of information that you as an end consumer want. And we see a very clear trend that this is not only a wish, but an absolute requirement to connect that the end material, the end products that you deliver, and connect that to information that comes from inside the site.
It's far beyond the regulatory, because we are working in Europe, or we are like behaving through regulatory, so it's not 100% the topic. Maybe it's like the origin of the sourcing of the milk or the fruits or etc. That it's more relevant for us, let's say, because we are under this regulatory. So the people wants to know where the coconut in Costa Rica or whatever, and if the cow was in Spain or it was milk in New Zealand. So I think it's more like the origin and the curiosity that the people has today than more the legal topic.
So I just wanted to add to that a little bit, because and those were both great use cases you guys talked about. But what those are really around kind of providing information for the products and the things, the way we consume food today. So one of my favorite stories is talk about a company. It's a Chinese company called Go-Go Chicken. So Go-Go Chicken's concept is similar to what Manel talked about with the cows. So they'll put an IoT sensor kind of on the chicken's leg. But unlike today, the conventional model is you go to the supermarket, you buy a chicken, you want to know where that chicken came from. Go-Go Chicken's model is that you buy the chicken when it's a little chick. They put an IoT sensor on its leg. They use AI for facial recognition to recognize your chicken. You have an app on your tablet or your mobile device, so you can watch your chicken as it grows, as it's walking around, eating, enjoying itself, I guess, being free range, right up to the point at which it goes to the factory and gets killed, and you eat it. So the reason that I like that story is it's a great example of taking a product that we know and would eat today, a chicken. You know, we go to the store and we have chicken, but they're adding a digital service to the chicken, and now suddenly it's a whole new offer. Now people feel they're not going to the store to buy a chicken; they're kind of owning and raising that chicken. It's their chicken up until the point that they eat it. So maybe not a business model for everywhere in the world. Certainly in the US, we don't like to get too close with our food. But for China and for that market, it's been a huge success and a very interesting application of digital technology outside of the plant.
I love it. I need a Go-Go Chicken.
A Go-Go Chicken indeed, yes.
So when we consider digital transformation on the whole, how important is the customer? How important must the customer be centrally to the digital journey of a organisation?
Well, now is the wording is customer-centric or client-centric. We are changing our lines. And this is a fact. So the example of the chia seeds and the yogurt or cereals or milk, or now it's coming like every 6 months you have a new thing to launch. We increased 30% the innovation against the last year, so it's a lot when you have a lot of products to launch. And we are also the artificial intelligence is done by the consumer, so we get the data from them, and we are trying to guess what's next. But I think it's the time of the consumer.
Yeah, and less guessing as well, I guess. So we've got a few minutes, I guess, if anybody from the floor wants to ask any questions. Feel free. As I say, we've got 3 distinguished guests. Okay, we have a question here. Juan Pedro.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's better. Regarding just your last comment about the customer centricity, how relevant is for you having information about the customer fridge, what's on the fridge, and how the customer is consuming your goods at the end of the supply chain?
We are under some tests, some trials in some, let's say, clients for us. So big supermarkets, hypermarkets. So we are somehow installing devices to control what is in the shelves. So trying to guess what is the rotation of the products, and then we guess what is the trend day after day, minute after minute. So what are they picking from the shelf?
I have an example of what you're asking about. From Tetra Pak point of view, we do the package that contains, as an example, milk. We have added QR codes and digital matrix codes for some time. That's not new. But what we have done as a trial is to add an RFID tag on each package. That means that you can put the package into the fridge, and the fridge will know this fridge exists. You can buy that from LG or from other brands. You put the milk into the fridge, and you come to the fridge the day after, and you say, what food shall I do today? What shall I do for dinner tonight? And the fridge tells you should use the milk because it's just 1 day left before the expiry date. So take the milk, use the milk, you take out the milk, you make pancakes because pancakes consumes a lot of milk. So you make your pancakes and you do not put the milk back into the fridge again. That means that the fridge knows that the milk was there, it was taken out, not replaced. And then the fridge automatically orders new milk. And this is not in the future. This exists in the US. We're doing trials, and Amazon is then delivering the new milk. So when you open the door next morning to get your daily newspaper, you also have the new milk standing there, automatically delivered by the fridge or by Amazon to you. So this is very close future to be realistic. It's a little bit too expensive to have an RFID tag on each and every package, but the technology is definitely going that direction, and it's very exciting to see. And as a supplier, it's very important to be close to Amazon and the other suppliers, because they need to pick you as a supplier. Who should they order from? So that's a very interesting new challenging e-business scenario that's is brought forward just because of this.
Yeah, I would just add to that, particularly with Amazon and the effect that it's having. One of the things that's available in the US now for laundry soap, a little outside of food and beverage, but very close, is you can actually get like a little button with a double-sided tape on the back. You stick on the wall, and when you run out of or are running out of laundry soap, you just click the button, and it will reorder directly through Amazon. And as you said, next day it's on your doorstep. So it is really becoming reality now in the US.
It's in Europe as well.
Yeah.
And something else we're working on as well with some customers is connected coolers. So some of the large fizzy drink manufacturers, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic, they want to know where their coolers are because they often get stolen. So there's geolocation devices in there. But also They can check the temperatures right, because if you buy a large fizzy drink brand, you want it at the right temperature, so they can make sure it's at the right temperature. They know when it needs restocking, they know what lines are selling fast, but also they can give the customer an app, so when the customer's on the way home from work, they can say, where can I get my nice, cool, refreshing beer from, and it'll give a location of a fridge. So yeah, I guess some good examples there, so thank you. So okay, so I guess we should wrap up now as we're approaching the 45-minute mark, but so based on the discussions that we've had, I truly believe that customer centricity, as you mentioned, is absolutely key. And moving forward, it's more and more important for food and beverage manufacturers to remain in touch with the customer. A company strategy within digital transformation is about behavioral change, and it's about organizational change. The organizational change and the strategy needs to be delivered top down, but not only, it needs to be delivered horizontally across BUs, because there needs to be much more collaboration within any organization. Likewise, data architecture needs to be aligned to a company strategy, and it needs to be both horizontally and vertically integrated. And we spoke about collaboration within a company, but collaboration across the whole supply chain is key as well. There's great collaboration here between a technology partner, an OEM, and a manufacturer, an end user. But collaboration could be with suppliers, it could be with logistics, it could be with retailers. So as we move forward, collaboration across the whole value chain is going to become more and more important. And I think the final takeaway as well is that digital transformation doesn't have to be big bang. We don't have to do everything at once. It's a journey. It's best to choose some relevant use cases, to fail fast if we've got to fail, but if we're successful, get internal buy-in with wins, and to be able to also scale fast. So Schneider Electric delivers our strategies in food and beverage through EcoStruxure, connecting intelligent devices, connected devices at the plant level, but not only. It could be at the farm level with sensors in fields. It could be in coolers in the retailers. Some kind of real-time operational control and data collection on the edge layer, and at the top layer, making intelligence of all this data that we're collecting to give benefits and value to the customers, to the manufacturing, to the logistics, etc., etc. This can be done. The apps analytics can be on cloud. They can be on premise. But cybersecurity, as we mentioned, is vital across every layer and in every device. So I thank everybody for attending. Please keep in touch with hashtag digital economy and hashtag what's your bold idea on social media. I particularly would like to thank the gentlemen on stage, Manel, Rikard and Keith, for taking part in this presentation, in this panel. So thank you very much, guys. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
And we've got, I think, 1 hour left. So if you want to learn more about what we've discussed today, on the other side of the EcoStruxure for process industries in action is EcoStruxure for food and beverage. So please take the opportunity to go and visit our booth. So thank you very much.
Thank you all.